December meeting. Please call the roll.
Chair Borders,
Present.
Vice Chair Crone, Commissioner Brooks, Commissioner DeChristopher,
Here.
Commissioner Peterson, Commissioner Preston, Commissioner Pizell.
Here.
A quorum is present.
Thank you very much. Commissioner Preston, will you lead us in the pledge, please? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, the public is invited at this time to comment on any topic that relates to the matters over which this public body has supervision, control, jurisdiction, and advisory power, including any such matter that is not specifically included on the agenda as an action item. No action will be taken on any matter raised during this period of public comment. Is there any public comment at this time? Seeing none, item 5A for possible action, approval of the minutes of November 18th, 2025. Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Thank you. Commissioner Brooks made a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second?
I second.
Commissioner DeChristopher seconds. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Item 6A, MPA 2025-0405, discussion and possible action regarding the annual master plan report and the Planning Commission's recommendations to the Board of Supervisors concerning the implementation of the master plan as required by NRS 278.190, parentheses 1. Hope.
Thanks, sorry. We had to get all settled here. So much going on. Heather got me settled, so we're good. Okay, this is the annual master plan report. So the purpose of this item is to update the Planning Commission on master plan implementation activities and to review and make recommendations to the Board of Supervisors on the master plan action plan and other master plan related matters. The purpose of reviewing the master plan at this time of the year is for the commission to make a recommendation to the board prior to the board setting city goals and priorities for next year, because there may be things that need funding, and so that's why our timing is the way it is. Staff does anticipate bringing the annual master plan report to the Board of Supervisors in January 2026. This is not the Planning Commission initiating an amendment to the master plan as was done in September 2025. You'll remember I brought, after the listening tour, we had those two items and you passed a resolution. We're not doing that today. On the annual report, the Planning Commission is making a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. So that's all this is. So there was a lot of confusion whether we were initiating something. We are not initiating anything. You are a recommending body. NRS 278-190 states the Planning Commission shall endeavor to promote public interest in and understanding of the master plan and of official plans and regulations related thereto. As a means of furthering the purpose of the master plan, the Commission shall annually make recommendations to the Board of Supervisors for the implementation of the plan. So that's what we're doing today. We're following NRS 278-190. Typically, when we do this, we look at mapping corrections. So you all have already, as part of the listening tour that happened after the adoption of the master plan, initiated the amendment of two parcels in the master plan. One was the church at 3000 Lampa Lane, where you've recommended it go to public, quasi-public. And the second is 4015 Lapeer Drive, where you've recommended it be designated as high-density residential. I'm just reminding you about these. These have not been scheduled for public hearing yet, but you don't need to take any action because you already have passed the resolution. What we also do annually when we look at the master plan is we look at the city's acquisitions and disposal of land that occurred in 2025. So in 2025, the city acquired 5 parcels of land that comprise of the drainage channel at Lampa. 4 of those 5 parcels are designated as open space, which is the correct designation. The 5th parcel, which I'm showing on the map here, is designated as medium density residential. So the staff would recommend that this be designated as open space, and we would suggest that you make that recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. The city has disposed of a single piece of land. It's a piece of land on Airport Road that was near Lampa. It seemed to be a remnant parcel from when they aligned Airport Road, and that parcel, a piece of land, is appropriately designated as high-density residential. So the only mapping correction being recommended is the 5th of 5 parcels that comprise the Lampa drainage channel, and it's what's on the board in front of you. Next, I'm going to talk about the Lampa North Specific Plan. So the Lampa North Specific Plan was adopted March 17, 2016, and it was amended in 2017 to include infrastructure systems. The specific plan is actually comprised of 4 documents. I'm only going to focus on 2 of those documents in talking to you about the Lampa North Specific Plan. I'm going to focus on the conditions of approval dated March 16, 2017, and on the handbook. So, this is in your staff report. I don't have a slide to show you. But essentially, what happened on March 16, 2017, is we had these conditions of approval that were approved for the specific plan. Condition 57 was just one condition. It wasn't 57A and 57B when it left the Planning Commission. And what it talked about was the level of service for certain intersections that are in the vicinity of Lampa, North Lampa. What happened between the Planning Commission and the board meeting is one of the board members said, well, it'd be good to be able to equate that to a unit count because it's easier for us to understand a unit count than a level of service. So in the case of condition 57, it got split up into 57A and B. And 57A included the condition the Planning Commission had seen about the level of service. And condition 57B tried to take that exact thing that was 57A and equate it to a unit count and say, or when you hit this many units. But they were supposed to be describing the same situation. They weren't supposed to be supplementing each other. They were 2 things that were supposed to describe the exact same thing. Well, over time, it appears that maybe we're not in sync. And so we are recommending the removal of 57B so that we just call out a level of service. That's what we do for everything else. We never rely on a unit count to have transportation improvements. We always say that level of service will trigger a transportation improvement. So, and I happen to know all that history because I was there doing the work when this all happened. So I know it very well. Related to 57B in the handbook is section 4.5.1, which is called Gold Dust Way Connection Alternative. It essentially repeats what 47B says, which is at I think it's the 810th unit, you have to have a street connecting to William Street. And that statement doesn't take into account the level of service. So again, we'd rather have 1 unit of measurement. We'd like that unit of measurement to be level of service, and we'd like to remove the references to the unit count because I think we've gotten to a point where because of background traffic, they're not syncing. It just creates confusion. Next, I'm going to talk about the downtown character area map. So chapter 6 of the master plan talks about vibrant gateway corridors in the downtown. And you all remember, as in preparing the master plan, that was a big thing, the vibrant gateway corridors in the downtown. Goal 6.3 is to promote the ongoing revitalization of downtown. What I put in front of you are 2 maps. One's from the 2006 plan, which shows the downtown character area, and the one, it's on my right, hopefully it's on your right, is the current plan for the downtown character area. So the downtown character area in our current plan has various sub areas. So we have the Main Street mixed use, the urban mixed use, the neighborhood transition mixed use, the Capitol complex, and the state office complex. In describing the Capitol complex and the state office complex, the document erroneously states that these lands are not under the city's jurisdiction. That's actually in conflict with NRS 278.580, which states that the state and its political subdivisions shall comply with all zoning regulations except for the expansion of an activity that existed on April 23rd, 1971. So that's a long way of telling you we have zoning jurisdiction if the use didn't exist in 1971. So for some reason, the document did not acknowledge this. So I am recommending that you include in your recommendation to the Board of Supervisors that that text be created to create consistency with NRS 278-580. As part of the late material, you have a letter from the Public Works Department of the state requesting that the area south of Musser, east of Stewart, and west of Roop, identified on the map as the state office complex, be removed from the downtown character map. The state is also requesting that the reference to the state office complex be removed from the downtown mixed use policy 1.6, which addresses large-scale infill and redevelopment. So essentially, the area in blue, if you look at the map, the light blue, those are basically designated as the state office complex on the downtown character map. And the state is asking to be removed from this map and also removed from the policies related to the downtown mixed use. Will Lewis, who is the administrator of Public Works for the state, and Brian Walker, who's the deputy director of Public Works for the state, are present if you have questions for them. I've also, and we talked about this a little bit because I was hoping to get a head start on this, I've provided you with the action matrix, and that was something we were hoping to really focus on tonight because we wanted to make sure that the priorities were right. I appreciate we may not have the luxury of time, and there might be something where the chair can decide whether you want to give me the input that you've maybe prepared ahead of time, and then we can schedule that piece of it for a different evening. So in short, what I'm suggesting is one mapping correction. And again, what I'm suggesting is that you make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors that there be one mapping correction. That's one mapping correction in addition to the two that you've already initiated. That we modify the Lampa North specific plan to remove references to transportation improvements based on unit count. And that we make some text amendments in the downtown character area map section to be consistent with NRS 278-580. And I would also like you to discuss the request from the state regarding being removed from the downtown character area map and the text amendment, which would also remove the reference to the state office complex from the downtown mixed use policies. I'm happy to answer questions, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, Hope. Well, I spent an airplane flight working on this one. So I would suggest that if we could delay this, and my primary concern about the matrix that we're working on is the the time areas. We talk about near-term and long-term priorities being 3 to 5 years and 6 to 10 years. And I think 6 to 10 years on some of these items is too much, so that the majority of my recommendations are in that area. And I think I would ask that the rest of the commission go ahead and submit to you their proposed changes, and we can look at this at a time in the future.
I'm good with that.
Okay.
So, and if
Mr.
you don't have
Mizell?
those changes tonight, you can get them to me when it's convenient.
Yeah, I would agree with the chairman. Most of the changes I had were reflective of the change recommended for action. I think it's A51, 513, excuse me, with regards to the updating the codes to reflect the changes in the master plan.
Okay, Commissioner Brooks?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I agree with your proposal for moving things forward on discussing specific changes. I would, however, like to ask some questions of the state officials and their request on the downtown Capitol complex.
Well, before we do that, let's see if we can resolve the other issues.
So if we go in
Your-
order,
Your
the,
recommendation is the one lot?
whoops. Okay, so first we could start with the property. I'll just call out the APN 004-422-23, and I'm recommending that you recommend that be designated as open space.
Okay, is there anybody disagree with that? Okay, next. I got 6 nods up here.
Next, I'm looking to remove the references to the unit count triggering traffic improvements from both the conditions of approval for the Lampa North specific plan as well as from the handbook.
Okay. Any objections? Okay,
Okay,
6 more nods.
Next, I'd like to have you recommend to the board a text amendment that creates consistency with NRS 278.580, which states we have zoning jurisdiction over the state and political subdivisions, that they're subject to our zoning regulations.
If it's NRS, I don't think we have any way not to
Okay.
say we're gonna do.
So we're 3 for 3.
Okay,
Okay.
and the final item, I think also links into item 7E.
Well, I think that's part of the reason they're asking for a continuation. So what you could certainly do is take 7E right after this item. But they are asking for basically to amend the master plan, and I think that's so that you'll be, if the master plan were to be amended, the biggest hurdle I think you had the other day was master plan consistency, finding one.
So what, if we recommend to the Board of Supervisors the change in the master plan, then item 7F then becomes continued, or 7E becomes continued to some other date?
Correct. I think Heather was able to figure out timing, and I think she would recommend, or we'd need the concurrence of the state, but recommendation to the board, the planning commission meeting in February, because that would give us time to handle all the procedural due process of a master plan amendment. Again, your action, and I just have to keep reiterating this because there's been so much confusion coming into this meeting. Today, what you are doing is you're recommending body to the Board of Supervisors. You are basically suggesting to them a to-do list for the master plan. You are not initiating any changes. So if you believe that this warrants being on the to-do list, and I'll just remind you, when you did initiate those other map amendments, the conversation we had was you weren't necessarily endorsing those map amendments. What you were saying was, we believe we should have a public hearing and consider these map amendments. So if you say yes to what the state is requesting, or you recommend to the Board of Supervisors yes to what the state is requesting, you are saying you believe that it makes sense to go ahead and have a public hearing and to consider the request.
Okay. Well, to me, it feels like I've been end-arounded. End-arounded. They're moving one way instead of going another. When we met in November, I think it was very clear that we liked the master plan that we had, and we're pretty inflexible about that. We spent over a year working on this master plan, and the overwhelming response that we got from the community was that Carson City is a small town and needs to have a small town feel. We were also regularly accused of bowing to the wants of developers and power so that they could run roughshod over the poor citizens of Carson City. I feel like if we do this, we're doing exactly what people of Carson City accused us of doing. I don't like the way this is going. I don't think that the state has dealt with us as a board in a very forthright and honorable fashion. You know, this complex they're talking about is not the end all to meet all. It's just phase one of another thing that they said that, oh, we're going to have a nice park out here. Well, the park is going to become more elevated parking lots. And we're not Reno and we're not Las Vegas. We're a small town and we're the capital of the state. And we would like for the state to give us some of that back. And we got nothing. We got stonewalled. Now we got a new way to get ourselves around it. We're being threatened with losing jobs. We're seeing, all the things that we as a community hold dear to us as our small town community being roughshod by the state because they have a design for a building that they've used in 2 other places that they want to plop right in the middle of our downtown. And I personally take offense to it. That's all I got to say. Anybody else? I would not recommend that we proceed forward with their request. Commissioner DeGeneres?
You did it again. I love it. No, I echo your comments. I think this is one of those moments where people are watching to see how a city and the state can work collaboratively to come to a conclusion. These 2 buildings will be the first of several. And in doing some research after the last meeting, I think there's ways that we can still get what we're looking for and still stay within the definition of being fiscally responsible, because we do understand that. So I hope we're being clear that we want to work with you, but that requires some action on your side as well.
Commissioner Preston?
I'm with the chair. I feel like there's been an end run here. We go from talking about our master plan and talking about properties we've already talked about. We talk about our matrix and updating that, which is the master plan that we've been working on for years. And then to have a memo put in by the state saying, well, we want to be basically taken out of that master plan, that makes it really difficult. So I feel that that should have never even been there. It should be in their application initially. It shouldn't have been in this one at all. In addition to that, I'm with you. I just feel like there's been complete end run on it. We have spent so much time, and I think something else too is that people say, oh, the Bryan building was done in 2006. The Bryan building was completed in 2006. And the first master plan that I've ever been part of was completed later that year. When they came to us in regards to a plan for this new project, they said that they had reviewed the master plan, our new one that was brought in this year. And obviously they didn't. So why would we change everything we've done and all the input that we've had from the community? I mean, we build apartment complexes, and the apartment complexes we're not allowing to have parking in front. They actually are having to be street walkable and planters and things like this, and then the parking in the back. If there's wants to be, a plaza, whatever, but this taking from Musser Street all the way down, essentially back by NDOT and by DMV, bordered on one side by Roop and the other side by Stewart, that is a huge piece of property that would not have the continuity that we've been trying to strive for. And I think something else too is that one of the things we realized is that I think is the DCNR building, I believe, is 5 stories. Well, we have a fire department that can only go 6 stories. So, there's things that need to be taken care of, and they need to be addressed. And I think that we've put a lot of time and consideration in there. If we were talking about just the master plan and not this memo just convolutes it. So,
Mr. Pozell?
Thank you. I have to agree with Commissioner Preston. To be honest, I'd like a little bit more definition and explanation as to why they want it removed. Their application, I believe, makes references to the design of the building trying to be in compliance with some GSA standards with regards to security. You know, to have some sort of understanding as to why they're continuing in this direction, why they're going this method as opposed to going through a proper master plan amendment application, where we can actually understand why they're proposing to remove it and just a more fleshed out application as opposed to a memo received at this late time.
Commissioner Brooks?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll be honest, I don't know if it's an end run or not. It's hard to read the minds of applicants for any project. I will say that, you know, I tend to view most state and local engagements like this as a process of negotiation, and this strikes me as an extremist opening gambit. Like, we had what I believe were reasonable requests. The state has come back and said, well, we want none of that. We want to opt out. I think representatives from the state here tonight have heard the informal feedback of this board. I suppose the thing that will determine to me whether the state wants to be a serious partner with the community it calls home is its next move, right? We are willing as a body, as a community, to sit down and figure this out with you. I don't know that there's any appetite. I can't speak for others. I'll say for me personally, there's no appetite to just for the state to take its ball and go home when we have just finished this master planning process.
Mr. Brooks? I'm sorry, Peterson.
I just want to say I couldn't agree more with the whole line of commissioners here. And Chairman, I agree with you. You had the whole thing in a nutshell. What everyone else added is exactly how I feel about the whole thing as well. Seems like we're not, maybe bullied is a strong word, but we're kind of put in a position where we may not have there's almost like no choice but to accept this. And you guys have worked harder since I'm the freshman here on this master plan for continuity downtown, and this is not working with us. It's kind of pushing us around a little. So discussion down the road is, I think, necessary to get to the end result that we're all after, which is continuity downtown.
Mr. Chair, this is a public hearing, so I want to remind you of that. And then after you've heard from the community, I just want to speak to procedural due process briefly.
Okay. Is there any public comment? Nope. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Make it green. There you go.
There you go. Good afternoon, Board. My name is Wilfred Lewis. I'm the Administrator of Public Works. I heard all the expressions of the committee members, and I want to assure each and every one of the members, we're hearing you. We want an opportunity to work with you. We think there is an opportunity for us to collaborate as far as the state is concerned. On behalf of my office, I'd like to apologize. We didn't have this conversation with this commission as well as with the city. We had our first meeting with the city mayor and the city manager, and it went extremely well. We agreed to have quarterly meetings so that we can meet some of the needs. You guys put a tremendous amount of work in the master plan. We recognize that. We're not trying to redo that. We have some needs as far as the state is concerned that we would like to bring to the table and at least have an opportunity to work with you guys. You made mention about some of the regulations that we have as far as safety. We all saw what happened at Brown University. We all saw that what happened in Australia. We also know, looking way back, what happened with the Oklahoma City bombing. We have those kind of concerns for state facilities, and we want to bring that to the table. Does it fit perfectly within your master plan? That's what we want, an opportunity to work. We never had that opportunity. We never had the opportunity when the master plan was being developed. And here we are, we're saying at this particular point, give us an opportunity to work with you. What we're asking to take this off of the map, take our area out, is just a temporary to give us an opportunity to work through some of the differences that we have. And hopefully by the time we get to February, we can have a plan that we all agree to. Brian, you want to add anything?
Okay. Any other comment? Yes, ma'am.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, guys.
Hello, I'm Doreen Mack. My company is Lofty Expressions. I'm third generation from Carson City, and I'm the one behind the last downtown renovation by taking out the freeway, removing the fence, expanding, making parking, and making it look like it did as a community when I was growing up here. We highly succeeded with that, and I could not be prouder of this board for saying that they do not want to move forward and they believe in the small community of Carson City. It is really important that we nourish that. And we were voted the best, most charming city in Nevada, in all of America, from HGTV this last February. So that was huge, and that's something to be really proud of. So I hope we can move forward as a community and we can all work together. And that was my big deal when I was doing downtown. I had monthly meetings with the businesses and the public, and integrated all of that together to come up with the plan that we did, and that was with everybody's approval. And again, I just want to thank you, and I appreciate everything that you're doing. Thanks.
Okay. Any other comment?
Just from a procedural due process perspective, you can sit there, but I don't think you're,
Okay.
okay. Okay, so we were in a meeting with the state, as Mr. Lewis alluded to. If you were to recommend to the Board of Supervisors that they consider the request of the state, what you're in essence saying is that you believe it's worthy of a public hearing. It doesn't mean that you're approving it. So I just wanted to be clear on that point in case that wasn't clear.
Well,
I think that's it.
I understand that. But
I
if you have a
understand.
public,
I just didn't want there to be any perception that if you were to say, yes, this is worthy of a public hearing, that if you recommended it to the board, you were endorsing it. That's all.
well,
And that was the only clarification in case that clarification was helpful.
it would be my read that if we had a public hearing, we'd have more people like this than people like Mr. Lewis. But that being that, I can't prejudge that. However, the state was invited to come participate in our master plan, and they chose not to.
Actually, we
So-
did meet with them. I believe Commissioner Preston was present at that meeting.
Okay. So, and they've indicated that they would like to work with us. I think this board would love to work with them. But I feel like I got three fingers on the anvil and the hammer's coming down. And I don't think that's the way to get cooperation. Commissioner Pazell?
There we go. Question for staff, really. Will this application, will this master plan update go forward to the board, including the state's request? Number one, and number two, if it does not, I know NRS has a limitation on the number of times a community can update their master plan. I believe it's a maximum of 4 in a calendar year. So they could be able to come back and request a separate master plan amendment to make this, what would be the submission time, the earliest submission time that they could come forward with that?
I'll answer the first question. I don't have the information on the second question handy. Um, You all are going to make a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. I will modify the report to reflect your recommendation and make it clear to the board what you're recommending. I will advise the board that we did receive this late material. They'll see what you saw and that you considered it and that you did not include it in your recommendation to the board. The board could choose to include it, even though you haven't recommended it. So I just want to be clear on that point. But yes, I would not tell the board that, I would not tell the board this.
Okay? Yes, Commissioner Bresson.
Okay, my question is we were originally given the matrix for the update and 2 amendments to the master plan. 3 amendments to the master plan. But then the late material comes in, and then we're discussing an NRS that says we have oversight, but then we're being told that they want to take the oversight away through late material. Is this?
No, that's not quite right. In the master plan, the state's land, as shown on the map that I have in front of you, is included in the downtown character area. So it's considered to be land that contributes to our downtown. And there are various policies related to lands that are in the downtown, and you all know this. And so by virtue of being in this downtown character area, their land use designation is not downtown. It's actually, I think it's public, quasi-public. But by virtue of being included on this map, they are subject to the policies for the downtown area. And so what they are seeking to do is not be subject to those policies. So they're requesting to be removed from the downtown character area map. That does not exclude the land from our master plan, nor does it exclude the land from our zoning. It would simply remove it from the downtown character area and the policies associated with the downtown. So it would still, and the portion of NRS that gives us zoning authority for uses that didn't exist in 1971, that would still apply and we would still take zoning jurisdiction.
Commissioner DeChristopher?
Yeah, the problem I have with that is collectively, I think we expressed at the November meeting that it was physical characteristics and yes, placement of, I shouldn't say just placement of parking spaces, the number of parking spaces, because when we spoke about the location of the buildings and the creation of the mall, that got in the way of being able to have any options with the buildings where the setbacks were. I think I'm disappointed because I'm not sure I'm sold that you actually have to remove yourself from it in order for us to have these conversations. But I understand what Hope is telling us. But I really wished we could have avoided that because it doesn't feel right to remove yourself when we're trying to work with you.
Mr. Chair, based on the input I've heard, I believe that the motion that's in the staff report, the recommended motion, will reflect what I'm hearing from a majority of the commission. Yes, you would make a motion that says, I move to recommend to the Board of Supervisors acceptance of the master plan annual report as presented by staff. And we may want to qualify it with wording to the effect that the commission didn't have the time to as a commission, review the activity matrix, and that you will be reviewing that at a future meeting.
Yes, I move to forward a recommendation to the Board of Supervisor acceptance of the master plan annual report as presented by staff with the removal of the activity matrix, action matrix to be reviewed at a later date, and that information forwarded to the board, and to not include the request by the state to remove the state complex from the downtown I hope the downtown character area.
Seconded by Commissioner Preston. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you. Item 7A. LU 2025-0400, discussion and possible action regarding the request for Carson City for a special use permit to allow for a 70-foot tall flagpole exceeding the 45-foot height limit on property zone retail commercial located at 1555 Medical Parkway, assessor's parcel number APN 007-531-29. Heather Ferris.
Heather Ferris for the record. The subject property is 18.17 acres in size, zoned retail commercial, and is part of the Carson Tahoe Hospital campus. In recognition of the upcoming 250th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, the city would like to construct a 70-foot tall flagpole in the southern portion of this property. The RC zoning allows for a flagpole. However, the maximum height of any structure in the RC zoning district is 45 feet, unless a special use permit is obtained to allow for height exceeding that. Due to the proposed height and location, staff was concerned about the flagpole potentially causing hazard to air navigation. The applicant, as part of their application material, did submit a letter from the FAA, which determined that the flagpole would not be a hazard to air navigation. Additionally, FAA Form 7460-2, notice of actual construction or alteration would need to be filed within 5 days after the construction reaches its greatest height. So that would be something that they would have to submit with the FAA and provide proof to staff that they've completed that. There are 6 findings of fact that the Planning Commission must make in the affirmative. In order to approve a special use permit, staff was able to make all findings and is recommending approval subject to the 7 conditions of approval included in the staff report. We have not received any public comment related to this item. I'm available for questions, and Joe Cassiopo is here representing the project.
Okay. Any questions for staff? I have one minor one. And I recognize the fact that this is a special use permit for a flagpole and not a flag, assuming that someday there will be a flag on the pole. But we typically talk about dark skies and those kinds of things as a provision. How do we implement that if we don't do it here?
So there is actually a condition number 6, which talks about lighting, and the lighting for a flagpole is addressed in our development standards. So essentially, what this says is that the applicant has to submit with their building permit a lighting plan, including manufacturer's cut sheets, demonstrating compliance with the requirements of Division 1.3.3 subsection 7 for lighting of the flag.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Brazel?
Thank you. Where is this in relationship to the art piece on the Freeway of the Eagle? Do you know?
Stephen says it's southwest.
Okay, thank you. Okay. And this will be 70 feet tall. How does that compare to the height of the eagle, the statue? Do you know?
I don't know.
Wouldn't guess? Okay. I mean, I'm assuming that that height was picked so that it either acts as a background or is higher than the eagle itself.
Yeah, Joe might be able to
Okay.
provide input on that.
Joe Casiopo with Resource Concepts for the record. I don't know the actual height of it, but my understanding, based on when I was looking at the mapping, is that the flagpole will sit a little bit higher, but you're exactly right. It's kind of a backdrop as you're looking at it from that direction.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Or the applicant? Who is the applicant? The city?
The city is the applicant. Joe's representing the
All right.
application.
The 7 conditions of approval are acceptable?
Yes, they are.
Okay. Are there any questions for the applicant? Is there any public comment? Okay. Hearing none. Any further discussion?
Yeah,
Commissioner Pozell?
I am as patriotic, I think, as anybody in the room. But I'm also a longtime resident of the state and of the northern part of the state in particular. And one of my favorite things is that view coming down from Lake Hill and looking out across the valley. I don't know that this would add any aesthetics to that view. In my opinion, this is an inappropriate site for such a thing. I think that Mills Park, Centennial Park, Fuji Park would have been much better. I think a pole like this, you know, you would bring your classroom to it, you would meet at it to celebrate or have a remembrance of life. In order to do that at this location, you'd actually have to use the hospital's parking and trek across open space to get to it. So I think it's an inappropriate location, and I will not be supporting the application.
Okay. Commissioner Peterson?
Where do the funds come from to pay for this? Staff?
I've processed the application. I don't have information as to where the funds came from.
So we don't know we don't know who's paying for this? Hi, Glenn.
Mr. Chair, good evening. Glenn Martell for the record, City Manager. The funding of this is collected through donations and in-kind sponsorships and is being managed through the Park and Recreation Foundation.
Okay, thank you. Any further questions or discussion? All right. Is there a motion? My motion man is not here. I need a motion. All right.
I can give it.
Commissioner Brooks, I'm looking at you. You can do this.
I'll make the motion. I'll make the motion. I move to approve LU 2025-0400 based on the ability to make the required findings and subject to the conditions of approval included in the staff report.
All right, so a second? All right, thank you. Seconded by Commissioner Brooks. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
All right, motion carries 5-1. Thank you. LU 2025-0396, discussion and possible action regarding the request from James Edmonds for a special use permit to allow for a 1,756 square foot addition to an existing accessory structure resulting in a cumulative total of 3,993 square feet with a 2,425 square foot primary structure requiring an SUP on property zoned mobile home 6,000, located at 2459 Airport Road, Sayers, parcel number 008251-34. Heather Mazzo.
Good evening, Heather Manzo for the record. So this project is actually located just to the south of a project that the Planning Commission had seen maybe 6-8 months ago for an ADU across the street to the north of this project. That ADU is currently under construction. If you've driven by the site, you might have noticed the construction. So this property is on the southeast corner of Airport and Sherman, and consists of a single-family residence. And while it doesn't look like a detached accessory structure by the city's definition, it is a detached accessory structure because of the portion that looks like it's attached to the primary residence. It doesn't qualify as attached. So by definition, we've got a detached accessory structure identified as subject property on this plan here. So the applicant is requesting the addition of an expansion of the detached accessory structure, which is highlighted here with red hash marks. And along with this, the property, as you may have noticed, has a unique shape to it, and there's also some access easements that serve properties adjacent to this property to the east and to the south. And one of the things that we observed both in the site plan and then also visiting the site is there's a non-conforming carport that is on the southeast corner of the subject site. That is a non-conforming structure that can't be permitted because it doesn't meet any of our requirements. And so the site plan identified it as something to be removed, and because it doesn't have the opportunity to meet code, we're actually recommending that it be removed with this special use permit. And so we did speak with the applicant. The proposed elevations for the addition will match both the existing primary residence and the detached accessory structure. Visiting the site, the architecture does match for the primary residence in the existing accessory structure today, and the proposed accessory structure with the 2 RV height garage doors does meet the maximum height limitations for the zone. When we take our height definition, the average height of the tallest portion of this structure is just a little over 21 feet in height. And if we measure to the peak, which is not how we define height, it's at 28 feet tall. So with that, staff is recommending approval. We were able to make all of the necessary findings to make that recommendation, and staff has not received any phone calls or emails from any members of the public on this request. And the applicant's available at the appropriate time if the commission has questions. Thank you.
Other than electricity, are there any other services in this building?
We can confirm with the applicant, but no, I do not believe so.
Okay. Commissioner Bazell?
Thank you. Heather, the property is zoned residential, and it can only be used for residential, but they can have like a home occupation or something like that, like an office. What I'm getting at is the only commercial use that could be there would be one that's allowed under the home occupation use. They couldn't convert the garage area into a automobile repair or anything like that. Just wanted to get that on the record.
Yes, that's correct. So the use that's established at this property is single family. And so with the single family use, if a business were to be established, it would be a home-based business. And there are very strict rules for what a home occupation can look like. So that's correct. The shop could not be converted to a commercial shop.
Thank you.
Commissioner DeChristopher?
Thank you, Chair. My question's along the same lines. I noticed there's pieces of equipment and whatnot sitting on the lot. Are any of those going to be going into the new structure? Are they being housed there?
My name is James Edmonds. This is going to be for my truck camper and RV, and park my forklift and other pickup truck in there.
Oh, okay.
It's not for business.
And I did want to state, I know we had a pretty thick packet this week, so in case any of my fellow commissioners weren't able to actually drive by, I love the property.
Oh.
You've got the right setup for being able to do this, so I felt very comfortable that not only aesthetically, but where it's positioned on the lot, it looks very good.
Thank you.
Mr. Peterson?
Yeah, I'm looking at at your plans, Mr. Edmonds, and I do see your RV, I see the van, but I do see, I believe, a 56 300 SL Gullwing Mercedes in there, as well as I believe it's a 32 Duesenberg two-door Phaeton. So I don't think those cars need any more work. I do appreciate your taste in cars. Yeah.
All right.
I think it's a great idea.
There are 8 conditions of approval. Are they acceptable to you, sir? No, make it green, please. There you
Yes,
go.
sir, they are.
All right. Do you have any other questions for the applicant? All right. Commissioner Peterson, it's your turn. Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. Public comment. Hearing none, now you can go. Now you found it.
I move to approve special use permit LU 2025-0396 based on the findings and subject to the conditions of approval contained in the staff report.
Is there a second?
I second.
Seconded by Commissioner DeChristopher. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's see. 7C, SUB 2025-0399, discussion and possible action regarding a request by KDH Builders for a recommendation to the Board of Supervisors concerning a tentative subdivision map known as the Blackstone Ranch South to allow for the creation of 103 single-family residential lots and the necessary site improvements on a site approximately 28.85 acres in size located within the Blackstone Ranch South Specific Plan and Zone Single-Family Residential 6,000 located on the west side of I-580 at the eastern terminus of Railroad Drive, assessor parcel APN 010-05144, 010-04204, and 010-051-40. Heather.
Thank you. Again, for the record, Heather Manzo. So while there are 3 parcels identified with this request, there's the project site, which is the bulk of it, which is 4-4. And the reason that the other 2 parcels are identified is because there is a future right-of-way railroad drive extension, which was previously required as part of the entitlement for this subdivision that back in October had expired. So that's why the other 2 parcels are identified with this request. So a little bit of background, a little bit of history. The tentative map was originally approved in 2019. There was a 2-year time extension that was granted on that original 4-year time frame, and then a shorter time extension because the current owner of the property thought they were really close to getting all of the federal and state permitting that was going to be necessary in order to get the final map before the board and get recorded. We got all the way to the point where we were scheduled for board and we had to pull it because we weren't quite ready. So at this point, the tentative map had been approved for a little over 6 years, and rather than trying to keep extending this, not really knowing when the feds were going to be able to issue approvals on the requests that had been made, the tentative map expired. And so the applicant's in making a request for the same tentative map that had been previously approved. Permits have been submitted for the site improvements for both on-site and then also the railroad drive extension that goes all the way to East 5th Street. So the permits are in, and at this point, we're just looking to re-up the tentative map as had been previously approved. So a lot of the conditions are the same conditions that had been placed on the previous tentative map. That's what's being recommended before this body this evening. So we're still looking at a 103-unit subdivision with a little over 3 acres of what's identified as a mitigation area on the north side of the project. North is kind of on the right-hand side of the map here, just to make things fit a little bit better on the slide. What that is essentially an area that is adjacent to the linear park, which has, drainage facilities. So that was an area that was identified as a need for this development to provide for drainage for the site. So with that, we've got a right-of-way that was approved through, there were limitations on the linear park site on how big of a right-of-way could be established within that park area. And that's something that was established by the federal government. So the easement limitations then dictated how wide the road could be and what kind of other improvements could be within that. And so the right-of-way limitations are 33 feet wide for the roadway curb gutter and that kind of stuff. And then Parks took forward a request to the state and federal government to allow for a recreation easement that's separate from the right-of-way, that is that 10-foot wide multi-use pathway that's on the west side of the roadway. So essentially what's happened is the city has gotten federal and state approval for this roadway alignment that goes through our linear park. And what that did is set the stage for how Railroad Drive has to look going through the linear park to the north of the project site. And so what we've done is condition number 16 recommends that we mirror that same exact roadway alignment going north onto private property to then connect with East Fifth Street. So that's why we have an attachment as a recommendation to the conditions, is to match up what's been approved through the federal and state process and through the board, through the parks approval, and through private property that then will make that connection of Railroad Drive. So I just wanted to put that on the record because it's a little bit of a different process that we don't normally see when we're talking about roadway design for tentative maps. And then with that, there were previous conditions that required all construction access to come off of Fifth Street so that the residents that are currently located off of Railroad Drive that access their subdivision off of Solomon aren't disrupted by construction that is taking place within the subdivision and on the road, on the extension of Railroad. So with that, the applicant has submitted this plan that shows how the construction traffic will then take access from East Fifth Street and come in, and until the subdivision is under construction, we'll have that turnaround bulb at the end to allow for construction traffic to get the roadway constructed, get in there and get access, and then start building the subdivision. So this just demonstrates that as part of that permit that they've gotten through the process, everything that was previously conditioned and is still being recommended for condition is kind of being carried forward through this request. Let me see if I have anything else for you. So with that, I didn't receive any public comments through email or phone calls. The applicant is absolutely available for any questions you may have for them. And staff is recommending that the Planning Commission recommend that the board approve this tentative map as recommended in the staff report. Thank you.
Heather, there are 35 conditions of approval, with the exception of maybe of 16. How many of these have changed since the original? Or if I remember what the original was, you know, what's different?
It was probably upwards of 50 conditions before. So some of them, we had a habit of conditioning code back then, and we don't do that any longer. So where we were conditioning code, I've taken that out. There were some duplicative conditions that spoke to similar items through multiple conditions. And so we consolidated a lot of those. So I would say the meat and bones is still there, but it's been consolidated to lesser conditions. But everything that was essential before is still being brought forward today.
Okay. Any other questions for staff? The applicant here? Welcome to the hot seat.
Thank you.
You're right. Go ahead.
Ken Hendricks, KDH Builders, for the record, applicant.
All right. There are 35 conditions of approval. Are they acceptable to you?
Yes, they are.
Okay. Are there any questions for the applicant? Commissioner Brooks?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Is the development anticipated to be market rate, or are you looking at the lot map and it looked like they were very small lot homes? I'm wondering if this is a particularly small lot development or if it's just run-of-the-mill market rate, what the market's looking for right now.
These are actually, I think, 7,000 square foot minimums. And actually, most of the stuff we build on is actually a little smaller than that.
Okay.
So I would say that they're probably at average or a little above average lot size.
Perhaps I'm biased in my idea of lot sizes.
What's the long pole in your tent right now?
Regarding
Breaking ground.
breaking ground, Well, if anybody knows the extensive process it takes to go through the Army Corps of Engineers, you'll understand that this has been a long process. We are at the threshold of approvals with them, we hope. All our applications have been submitted after about a 3-year process of both historical and biological studies on the site. We expect to have approval from them in March or April. We actually have a meeting tomorrow and the next day with both the Army Corps and SHPO, I believe. So I think that we could have all that resolved, and if that's resolved, we should be breaking ground shortly thereafter.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for the applicant? Okay. Public comment? Hearing none? Oh, I'm sorry.
Good evening. My name is Kelly Clark, and I live at 1910 Jocks Way. And so we're located adjacent to where this project's going to go in. I actually have a question for the developer, and it's in regard to the area along Linear Ditch, and perhaps staff could answer this as well. The area along the ditch is marked as the responsibility of the HOA. And so the area along the ditch is also where flooding could occur. So my question is, who will be responsible for maintaining that ditch going forward in the future? Would that be the HOA, the developer, or the city?
Okay. Are you done?
No, I think I have another question after that.
Well, need to ask them because.
All right, my second question is in reference to the FEMA report on flooding. We know that there are a few areas within the 103 homes that could be subject to significant risk. And I know that at least 2 flood zones have been, or at least show as flood zones right now on the map as is current. So I would ask the developer, will the homes that are in the significant flood zone be removed from the plot map prior to construction?
Okay.
Those are
you.
my 2 questions, sir.
All right. Any other public comment? Okay. Heather, can you take a whack at those?
I can address the maintenance. So if we're talking about the linear park parcel, that is city property, and so the city maintains that. If we're talking about the mitigation area on private property, which is on their site, then that is something that the HOA will maintain. So anything on the subject site that is not being dedicated to the city, which I think the roads are going to be offered for dedication, but anything that's going to be common area on private property will be maintained by the HOA, but anything on the city's linear park parcel is not going to be maintained by the HOA.
Stephen, where the floodplains?
So yes, there are FEMA designated floodplains along the linear ditch. The city does allow development within the floodplain. We require a 1-to-1 mitigation in terms of every cubic foot of fill you put in the flood zone, you have to have a cubic foot of cut. It has to be free draining. And as part of that, there is a FEMA process that will actually revise the map, and that isn't in the conditions.
Okay. All right. Hearing no other public comment. Mr. Brooks.
Mr. Chair, I move to recommend approval of SUB 2025-0399 to the board based on the ability to make the required tentative subdivision map findings and subject to the conditions of approval included in the staff report.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Mr. Peterson, was that you or Mr. Brazel? Okay, the other way. All right. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed, no. Motion carries. Let's see, item 7D, LU 2025-0390. Discussion and possible action regarding an appeal of staff's decision to deny a request from Charles Kilpatrick, to install two 3x5 signs on a chain link fence surrounding the base of an existing billboard, proposing to advertise the company name, phone number, and email address for the billboard on property zone resident retail commercial located at 3590 North Carson Street, APN 007462-03. Heather Ferris.
Heather Ferris for the record. The appellant is the owner of an existing billboard located at the southwest corner of North Carson Street and West College Parkway. The appellant wants to install two signs at the base of the billboard advertising the contact information of the billboard's business to attract potential businesses to advertise on the billboard. On September 12th, 2025, the appellant emailed staff to find out the city's requirements for the placement of signage on the fence surrounding the base of the billboard. On September 15th, 2025, staff informed him that per Carson City Development Standards Division 4, signage was not allowed as there was no building at that location. On September 23rd, staff and the appellant met to discuss the request and the limitations outlined in the code. As a result of this meeting, staff suggested that the appellant submit his request in writing, which would allow for staff to provide a written response that could then be appealed. The appellant provided his request via email, and on October 20th, 2025, staff issued a response to the written request, informing the appellant that his request could not be approved because the signage allowance is based on the building frontage and there's no building at this location. Therefore, the signage would not be allowed. Staff also informed the appellant of the right to appeal. Division 4.4.14 of the development standards allows for the appeal of the denial of the issuance of a building permit or any decision of an administrative officer under Division 4. The appellant submitted his appeal on October 23rd, 2025, and there are 12 points the appellant has made, all of which I have responded to in the staff report, and I'm happy to review any of those with you upon request. But the primary points I would like to make are about the difference between the definitions of buildings and structures and how allowable sign square footage is computed. So Division 4.3 defines a structure as a structure that is built or constructed, any edifice or building of any kind, or any piece of work artificially built up or parts joined together in some definite manner. While staff agrees that the billboard is a structure, it is not a building. Per CCMC 1801-123, a building structure is defined as any structure including membrane structures, having a roof supported by columns or walls, and built for the shelter or used for the enclosure of persons, animals, chattels, or property of any kind, including without limitation, awning, carports, ramadas, or patios. The distinction between a structure and a building is important because allowable signage is based on building frontage for commercial use. The on-site commercial use is a billboard. Again, while this is a structure by definition, it is not a building. Per Carson City Development Standards 4.6.2, when computing the allowable size of signage, it must be calculated based on the lineal frontage of a single building side facing the public street. In this case, as I just described, there is no building located on site to calculate allowable signage. Therefore, the two proposed signs are not allowed. With that, staff recommends the Planning Commission deny the appeal and uphold staff's decision of October 20th, 2025. I'm available for questions, and Mr. Kilpatrick, I'm sure, would like to address the commission.
Okay. Are there any questions? Excuse me, questions for staff first? Mr. Puzzell?
Yeah, Heather, in my past life, the Carson City Code stating the difference between a structure and a building. That's pretty much universal. Building typically has a roof, consists of walls. A structure similar is built or constructed. Any edifice that is erected, and there's a clear distinction between the two. So I'm clear on that. It's been my experience with billboard operators and owners, if they advertise, they use the sign itself as the advertisement if it's vacant or if they have space available. It appears that, thank you, I think your display clearly shows what is typically seen in billboards. The applicant's response is basically he doesn't think he should be required to do that because that's a loss of revenue. Is that correct?
I believe that's part of his argument, yes.
Thank you.
That it? Okay. Mr. Kirkpatrick.
Hi. Good evening. Thanks for all your volunteer time. Charlie Kilpatrick, my wife Jo and I operate those digital billboards up there on College Parkway and North Carson Street. We have a terrific time helping the local businesses with their ads, and we're trying to avoid being the only business in Carson City that doesn't have an identification sign located on its property. And we think that Mr. Eisel mentioned something, the difference between a building and a structure. And we're going to see that the Carson City development standards are a little more nuanced than that. But back to the billboard is just a little background. They're 25-foot structure. It's a 25-foot structure with back-to-back billboards with a walkway in between for repairs. And it's not just a revenue thing when we advertise. We only have so many slots, and we love to service nonprofits. That's kind of a big deal for us, and everything from Carson City Little League registration to Fiddler on the Roof at the community center to greenhouse fundraiser. We try to accommodate as many nonprofits as we can. So one of the interesting things is there's already been a lot of use of this security fence, which is a 6-foot chain link fence. It's perfect for a sign. Because it's easy to put on and easy to take off. But we've already had a lot of use of that without any objection from the city during the last election cycle. We had Lori Bagwell, Amity, and Lisa Schutte. So at least all of our candidates won anyway, the ones that were on the security fence. But that was for months. There was no problem at all. So we've got the idea you can only rotate so many spots on a digital board because everyone has to have their people that are paying for a number of slots. If you have too many, you're not going to rotate enough for them to get their what they bargained for. So we thought, well, if we see that the signs are on the security fence is a perfect spot for a sign, and the signs that we had Alpine Signs prepare are just 3x5 signs. So it's 15 square feet times 2, 30 square feet of signs. We thought, well, we'll just check with the city, make sure do we need a permit? So we get the response is it's an off-site sign. And we're thinking, well, what does that mean? And so we let them know, no, the business license is the address where the billboard is. It's all one. That's where the business is, and And so the next day, we get another email that says, staff has looked at CCDS and there's no way forward on this project. So now we've had two no's, but we still don't know. The first one didn't make any sense. The second one, we still have no idea what we're doing. Or why can't we can't go forward if it's not prohibited, which is, it's agreed that this is not a prohibited thing to put a sign on a fence. It's not prohibited. If it's not exempt, and we all agree it's not exempt, then there is a way forward. That's to have a sign permit. And that was my original question. Do we need a permit? And so I'm getting this. So rather, we don't have nothing to appeal. We have nothing at that point. So I, as Heather pointed out, I said, well, why don't we have a meeting? And we can at least talk and find out what the problem is. Because we haven't heard anything yet. But we've been told no twice. So we get into the meeting, and as Heather pointed out in her staff workup, we get into the meeting, and yeah, for the first time we're hearing the reason we can't permit it is because it's a structure and not a building. And we had done a little work on it, and under CCDS 4.3, structure means a structure that is built or constructed, any evidence or building of any kind artificially built up. So that's a general definition that includes buildings. A structure is a building. And so we pointed that out, and they said, and then we reached an agreement, as Heather said, we would submit something more formal. They would look at it and at least send us something, a decision that we could appeal. So we got the decision now. The decision is we can't permit it. You can't have any signage there because there's no building in a traditional sense in order to compute the lineal distance, and then from that compute the signage, how much signage you could have. So that's exactly what we needed. We needed something that made some sense. And that sounded good, except that they're relying on CCDS 4.7.5, which is page 11 of your, you don't have hard copies, huh? It's all. Anyway, 4.7.5, which says, and that's the code section that says, okay, if you have 3 square feet for every 1 foot of frontage. So that's how they compute it. But it has a default section, E, regardless of the amount of frontage of the building or suite, each business is entitled to a minimum of 80 square feet of signs. So there's a default minimum for every business in Carson City. And we are one of those businesses. And we only want 30 square feet of sign, 15 on our North Carson side and 15 on the College Parkway side. That you would have, the previous statute I discussed, or the previous code section, defines structure to include a building. You would really have to be unfair not to apply this default minimum to allow us to put these 30 square feet of signs. This would be completely unfair because we have the code sections that support what we're trying to do. And so with that, thank you for your attention.
Commissioner Brooks?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have one question for Heather and one for the applicant. Heather, if this body voted to reverse staff's decision, what's the process moving forward? Is it a special use permit or something else?
Well, I think I would need to understand what section of the code the Planning Commission is relying on to allow for signage, assuming that For example, you utilized 4.7.5, then we would need to decide, and we need to discuss it with the building official, whether or not a building permit would be required. And at that point, he would be able to apply for a building permit and move forward.
Thank you. For the applicants, thank you for your thorough overview of it and coming prepared. How long have you had the billboard there?
3 years.
3 years. And did you purchase it, or was that greenfield and you established it?
There was a little piece of property that had a lousy realtor who couldn't even sell this little piece of property. Oh, that was Terry Preston. And it had a billboard on there. It had a billboard with a dentist on there. I don't know, you probably remember. A static billboard. And we thought, well, look, let's upgrade this thing, and we went through the city, and everything went. Special use permit.
Certainly. We can't get into a dialogue about this, so I don't want to go back and forth on it too much, but I assume that business has been okay because it's still operating and everything. I get that you devote inventory to nonprofits. I get that paying customers want every available, it's to your advantage to sell all available inventory. But I do find myself struggling to think of another business that doesn't have to basically eat some of its own seed corn to continue to get business. I understand why the street level signs make sense, but the fact that you haven't had street level signs and you still got a pretty good inventory going says that something is working. Now, that's not determinative, but I think it's worth all of us thinking through as we make this decision.
Commissioner DeChristopher.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, my thoughts on this one when I read it was, the first thing I think of when I see your sign is it's been very successful. You have good clients advertising on a regular basis. You're kind of in my wheelhouse with outdoor advertising. If I were a client currently paying for that space, I think I would take issue with having signage at the base, because your purpose of putting it there is for people to look at it, know that you're the owner, that's a business. So it means someone's paying attention to that and not mine. Just some food for thought. But I did read through the code. I understand you may interpret it differently, but if you were to come to us with a special use permit, because that's where it could end up, I would still vote no, simply because I think the sign as we originally voted on and agreed to is the right fit for that area. To add anything in addition, I think, is a distraction.
Commissioner Peterson.
This question is probably for staff. He's referring to, the applicant is referring to CCDS 4.7.5 and then subclass E. He's calling it a business, but do they serve sandwiches? Is a business as a sign? What does it provide besides signage? If we're going to call this a business, if that's what the applicant is deferring to.
So there is a business license at that location for a billboard. So that is the business. The business is a billboard. And that is actually addressed on page 13 of the staff report as well.
Got it. Okay. I think the whole thing is being a structure as it's defined here, 18.01.123, membrane, roof, columns, all that. This clearly doesn't have any of that. I think that we should stick to what it says and stick to what staff has proposed. Thank you.
Mr. Pazell.
Thank you. Heather, could the applicant referred to, I think, what are commonly called election signs? And typically jurisdictions have special requirements, time limits for election signs. I believe it's a certain specific time period before the election, then they have to be removed a certain time period after that election. Is that correct?
That's correct. I don't know those time periods off the top of my head, but that is correct.
The other thing that it reminds me, the 4.7.5E, regardless of the amount of frontage of a building or suite, each business is entitled to a minimum of 80 square feet. It's primarily for a strip center or a little shopping center. You may have a store in there, but it's not on the street, but you're entitled to a sign. So, it's just, to me, it's just not a structure.
It is a structure, but not a building.
Not a building. Yes, sir. All right. Any further discussion with the applicant? We need public comment. Any public comment? Nope. All right. Back to the commission. Anybody want to volunteer?
Certainly. I move to deny the appeal and uphold staff's October 20th, 2025 decision to deny the placement of the sign as presented in the staff report.
I second.
There's a second. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. You're a no? All right. Motion carries 5-1.
Mr. Brooks, would you mind explaining what code provision you're relying on to make your decision? I think it would be helpful if this was appealed to the board to understand that.
It's, and here frankly, I may be falling down on the job. It's less about a specific provision of code and more about my belief that the code as presented is overly restrictive and doesn't adequately take into account, for lack of a better phrase, unique businesses that don't have a traditional footprint.
Thank you.
Item 7E, ZA 2025-0394, discussion and possible action regarding a request from Darren Berger for a recommendation of the Board of Supervisors regarding a proposed ordinance establishing various provisions related to the relocation of a historical structure from one property to another within the historic district. Heather.
Heather Ferris again for the record. So this request would affect all properties within the historic district, and those are shown here with the brown hashed areas. So starting with some background, several months ago, a request was before the Historic Resource Commission to allow for the demolition of a building in the historic district. In that case, the HRC did not want to approve the demolition, and instead, a neighboring property owner, Mr. Berger, suggested relocating the building to his property. However, there was a need for reduced setbacks. The HRC continued the item to the next meeting to give the applicant and Mr. Berger an opportunity to discuss moving the structure and staff an opportunity to explore options for reduced setbacks. A variance was briefly discussed at that time. However, a variance is not the appropriate tool in such a case, as it's unclear how the variance findings can be made. As I'm sure you all remember, a variance grants property owner permission to deviate from dimensional criteria outlined in Title 18. It focuses on physical constraint of the property, such as size, shape, or topography, and whether the strict application of the code would prevent the property owner from the same privileges enjoyed by other owners of property located in the same vicinity. A variance cannot take into consideration whether development within the confines of the code would be more expensive or simply does not suit the desires of the property owner. So a variance is currently the only option outlined in the code to allow for any reductions in setback. Staff suggested to Mr. Berger at that time that he may want to request a zoning text amendment that would allow for the use of the same setbacks when relocating a building within the historic district, essentially transferring setbacks as they exist on the current property to the property where the structure would be relocated. The HRC discussed this concept on September 3rd, and several HRC members expressed support for such an amendment, noting that historic property layouts often did not consider setbacks. On November 3rd, 2025, Mr. Berger submitted a request for a zoning code amendment to amend setback requirements within the historic district when a historic structure is relocated from one historic property to another. So staff recognizes that properties in the historic district were typically developed without consideration for setbacks, and there might be some value in allowing for setbacks to be reduced or transferred from current properties to the new properties when a historic property is being, or historic structure is being relocated. To accomplish this, staff has proposed adding a new section to CCMC 1806, which is the section that discusses the historic district. The proposed language shown here on this slide essentially would allow for the HRC to approve the transfer of setbacks from one property to the other when a historic structure is being relocated within the historic district, as long as the transferred setbacks are applied only to the relocated structure. The relocated structure is outside of all public utility easements unless the public utility easement is abandoned, and a document is recorded disclosing the setbacks were transferred and that the setbacks only apply to the relocated structure. Per 1802-0451, the Planning Commission makes recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. In order to recommend approval of the text amendment, the Planning Commission must make all findings in the affirmative. Staff has made all findings and is recommending the Commission recommend approval of the text amendment to the Board of Supervisors. We have not received any public comments related to this item, and Darren Berger is here representing the project.
It's rather unique, yes. We all have questions. The Planning Commission is the effect of this change to Title 18 basically removes any kind of approval from the Planning Commission and gives it solely to the historic.
As it's currently drafted, yes.
Yeah. I don't mind them doing that, but I think it should come through here also. That
Okay.
would be my only, that we are the keepers of Title 18. If we start allocating out responsibilities for Title 18 to other boards and commissions, I think we lose control over what we're doing. I don't have any problem with them doing it. I just think somewhere along the way, we need to be informed or have the opportunity to put an oar in the water. That's my personal opinion. Any other questions? Commissioner Pazell.
Thank you. I agree with the chairman, but also I had a suggestion in the proposed ordinance language under subsection 3B, just that it be similar language throughout A, B, and C. In B, add relocated between the and structure, so that we've got the relocated structure consistent throughout the proposed language.
Mr. Preston?
Okay, I have a question. This sounds really weird, but is this that little garage that was behind R&R? It is. And it's gone now.
It's gone, but it's not forgotten. It's in a very safe place, and hopefully it'll be resurrected.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
you commented you wanted the Planning Commission, the Historic Resource Commission to have review authority over this application.
Mm-hmm.
we ran into this about 9 years ago. I forget. I know the project. I can't remember exactly what the entitlements were, but there was confusion on what should come first, HRC or Planning Commission. So if you can address what your expectation would be for sequencing, I think it would be cleaner to codify that.
My expectation would be that the HRC would recommend to us that we approve it. And I don't know how to write that in there, but that would be, okay. Would a change like that be acceptable to you, sir?
I think so. I was kind of chasing that through my head.
I don't want to get in their business and they don't want
Yeah.
to get in ours, but I think there ought to be a process.
Yeah, and I understand what you're saying. You guys own the Title 18 and should have something to say about it. Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? Any public comment? Yeah. Yeah, that's, this.
I got a lot of voices in my head, and my wife thinks I'm crazy, and but yeah, I'm taking it on, and I can see, I see the vision, and it's coming
Okay.
together.
Okay.
So
Is there any public comment? Okay.
Again, I'm Doreen Mack, and by trade, I'm an interior designer, and I do historic design. And I saved the Bliss Mansion from being demolished way back when, in let's see, it's many, many years ago. I
Or
worked with-
go, just say a go.
Go, yeah. Teresa Sandrini I worked with. It was a 2-year project. And I'm working on a plan now on building a historic area. So I commend you for what you're doing. I think that's just awesome. And I'm all for restoring our history. We need to do that. We've lost a lot of history over redevelopment, and we need to bring some of this back and preserve what we got. Thank you.
Okay. Any other public comment? All right. Hope if the motion is to approve this based upon our changes, is that sufficient? Or do we have to,
No, why don't you let Heather kind of outline what she heard? Because I'd like the motion to be really specific. And
Okay.
then we don't have to go through the minutes and try to piece it together.
So, in looking at what's drafted, subsection 1 and subsection 3 refer to HRC approving it. I don't think that the Planning Commission is looking to approve the relocation of a historic structure, but you would be interested if they're looking to transfer those setbacks, and they'd be a reduced setback. So I'm thinking your change would live in subsection 3. So it would be subject to approval by the Planning Commission. Following recommendation from the HRC.
or just
Or something
item,
to the
item D, subject to approval by the planning commission?
Okay.
Just paragraph D. And subject to the approval of the planning commission.
Yeah, so subsection 3 says that it's subject to the approval of the HRC.
Yep.
So,
Heather, does it make sense to say if the transferred setbacks are not consistent with the setback requirements of the base zoning district, then the planning commission approval will be necessary for the transferred setback?
yeah, we could add that as D.
That would cover it.
Yeah. So we would be adding subsection D, essentially, that says the planning commission approval would be required if the transferred setbacks are not consistent with the base zoning.
Heather, just real quickly on 3C, should that be a document shall be recorded on the subject parcel? Because I know
We can add
recorders,
that.
because I know recorders will just record documents, and if it's not recorded on the property itself, it could just be
Yeah.
floating out there.
Yep, we can add that.
Thank you.
Okay. Then I'll go ahead and move that we recommend the Board of Supervisors approval of a requested zoning code amendment based on the ability to make the findings outlined in the staff report with the amendments to allow for
Planning
Planning
Commission
Commission
review and
review.
approval.
and recording on the subject plat. All right, is there a second? There he is. All right. Thank you, Mr. Peterson. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. All right, item 7F. Mr. Lewis, I'm glad you're still here. All right. We want to take you up on your offer, I think. Can we have a recess? Yeah, why don't we recess for 5 minutes? And then we'll be back to close out the night. All right, it's 5:50 and we're back in session. Item 7F, LU 2025-0375, discussion possible action regarding the application from the State of Nevada Public Works Division for a special use permit to allow for the construction of two-story office buildings and one four-story parking garage on property zoned public located at the southeast corner of South Stewart Street and East Fifth Street, assessor parcel number APN 004-022-01. Heather.
So as you heard with the first item, the state has requested consideration of a master plan amendment. They've also requested the SUP be continued to the January meeting. Because we won't know whether the board will want to initiate the master plan amendment until January, and the board would not be able to take action on the master plan amendment until February at the earliest, staff recommends a continuance to the February 25th, 2026 meeting.
February what? 25th?
Yes.
In the meantime, based on all the good feelings that we've had today, is it possible for us to get with the state and have a meeting and have a discussion? Everybody says there's common ground somewhere, but we're not talking to each other. Let's find a place to talk to each other and see if we can find some common ground. Here he comes. I knew I'd get somebody up here.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Commission. Again, Glenn Martell, City Manager for the record. Couldn't agree more, sir. And yes, I will commit to you that Mr. Lewis and I have had excellent conversations the last few days. And we have committed to meet together with our teams to talk about what that corridor will look like. Anywhere from the basic engineering stuff, traffic and storm drainage, all the way up to how we continue town square type, mall type access like was talked about earlier with parks, and integrating that better into our city master plan while meeting the needs of the state and their future plans to make sure that the state employees that are here supporting the state and the city of Carson City have the adequate office space and opportunities for space that they need to do their job well. So I'm looking forward to those conversations, and they will be ongoing. Yes, sir.
Okay, well, I think I would echo what the commission would tell you is that we're not trying to be the wart in the ass of progress here, but we certainly feel like we have some sort of a mandate from our community as to what we think we ought to do, and we're more than willing to work with anybody to see if we can get to those goals. And I thank you for doing this.
You're welcome, Mr. Chair. And again, I couldn't agree more, both as the city manager and as a long-term resident of Carson City. I look forward to what the future looks like in Carson City and making sure, again, that all those plans integrate and serve the city well for a long time. Thank you.
Okay. That being said, can I have a motion to continue this to February 25th?
Yes, I move to continue LU 2025-0375 to the February 25th, 2026 Planning Commission meeting.
Okay. Second. I'm sorry, is there any
Public comment.
any public comment? Okay.
That's how eager we are to work with the state.
All right. And was there a second? Yes. All right. Second by Commissioner DeChristopher. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. All right. Hope, you're up. You're still the best looking guy in the room.
I'll do future action items real quick. At your meeting in January 20th, 2026, you'll have 3 items on the agenda. One is a special use permit for the landfill tipping station that's zoned public, so it's triggering the special use permit. There's some property at the 24 and 2500 block of Arrowhead Drive. There will be a special use permit for outdoor storage of construction equipment and materials. And you'll be looking at another state property, 700 East 5th Street, and that's for the new mail service building in the extension of 3rd Street. So you'll have another state building coming in.
I'm sure they're so upset that you said we want to review their stuff. I'm sure now that the state is so upset, yes, we want to look at all your stuff.
In terms of the director's report, again, Mackenzie Ray prepares this for me, so thank you to Mackenzie. Building is going crazy. I couldn't believe it. So far, we're only halfway through December and we're at over $15 million. And total valuation for the calendar year is at 241 million, a little more than that. Number of permits, 42 housing starts in 15 days of December. That's a big number. The multifamilies over on Brown Street, Dwight Millard's project, and the 24 is Plateau. So that's that project. A lot, I'm not saying exclusively, but mostly Plateau, which is the project out on Highway 50, just near the Lyon County
just
line.
going like crazy out there, it seems like.
Well, evidently. So we've had 574 housing starts as of December 15th in 2025. And again, we do allow for over 700, so we will be hitting our maximum. There was an administrative review hearing, I think earlier today, for a property over on Wellington North for a 992 square foot accessory dwelling unit. Planning Commission, you know what you did, so I won't go through that. Code enforcement, we had 33 cases opened, which is low. We had been seeing like 90 cases per month, so we dropped this month. Well, we're only halfway through the month, though. 11 proactive cases were opened. Those were primarily RVs. 81 cases were closed, and 43 parking tickets were issued. In terms of business licenses, so far this month, we've had 27 new business licenses issued. The Home to Suites, which is up on North Carson, you probably have seen that under construction. They now have their business license. The Dollar Tree, which went in at the mall on Stewart Street, they have a business license. I don't know. They obtained the business license though, so they're close. New Vietnamese restaurant on William Street and Sugar Fix Candy Company over by Sassafras. We're not sure if it's in Sassafras or just over there. And special events in January will be the wine walk on January 3rd. So that is what I have for you.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Mihaela Niagos for the record.
Yeah, thank you. This is now the end of the year. I just wondered if you could give us a recap of where we are with some of these lawsuits that have been moving forward. I know there may be one or two, and if I don't want to put you on the spot, but if maybe at the next meeting, I'm just curious as to where we are and when we could expect to see something, because eventually they'll either come back to us or go away.
And all I can say at this moment is that I would be happy to make a presentation for you at the next meeting. Because of the transition from Mr. Reese as the previous Deputy District Attorney assigned to the Planning Commission, I can represent that I currently am not working on any of the current litigation. He still has control and is actively involved with those cases.
Okay.
So I can either bring forth what he informs me, or maybe he will decide to join us at the next Planning Commission meeting.
It would.
Yeah, or we can present a memo and maybe I can answer
that would
questions.
be wonderful. I think just so we know where we are. And I didn't mean to drop that on you right now, but it occurred to me the other day. This is the end of the year, so let's see where we are. Is there any commissioner have any other requests or comments? Yes, sir.
So I kind of want to get clear on this.
Press your button.
Okay, so the state wants to exit out of our master plan. Is that kind of the gist I'm getting with that?
Actually, we're at a part of the meeting where this isn't an agendized item, so I'm happy to talk to you one-on-one after the meeting.
Okay, that works.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Any public comment? Any other comments from anybody? Can we move to adjourn? Thank you, Commissioner Christopher. Is there a second? I'll second. We're adjourned.